Congratulations on getting your new puppy. Today I'm going to tell you a little bit about how to make sure that your puppy is getting the full nutrition that they need. It's very important that puppies eat on a regular basis at least 2 times a day for your bigger dogs. But for your small dogs, anybody who's buying one of your toy breeds or your small breeds, they should be eating at least 3 times a day. And we have that laid out in your paperwork. You can refer back to that. It'll tell you exactly how much to feed and what times to feed so that you can get on a proper schedule for your new little guy. So let's talk a little bit about the food that we're going to be feeding. The food that you got with your puppy is called Life's Abundance, and it's a dry kibble. It is actually a veterinarian made by a holistic veterinarian. No fillers, no byproducts, no corn, no gluten, no soy, never been recalled, and it's got great ingredients. In fact, every single ingredient has a purpose. That's why we love Life's Abundance, among other reasons, right? One of those is that it's easy for the puppies to eat. As you can see, it's a flat kibble. And the reason that's great is for little puppies, they have tiny teeth, but as soon as they put a little bit of pressure on it, it breaks in half, just like that, just like it did in my fingers. So even for your toy breeds, like your Yorkies, your Chihuahuas, your Morkies, your Cavaliers, they chomp on it and it breaks down, it's easy to eat, and it also works well for big dogs. This is an all life stages dog food, which means that it's great for toy breeds all the way up to large breeds. It's also good for puppies all the way up to senior dogs. Oops. And in fact, in my house, I have all 4 of my dogs on it, everything from a 3-pound Yorkie up to a 103-pound Bull Mastiff, everything from a 1-year-old to a 15-year-old, and they all love it. Your dog's gonna love it too. But let's say that your puppy gets home and isn't quite ready to be eating the dry food by itself because maybe they're excited, they're nervous, there's a lot of things going on. Keep in mind that when you bring a puppy home, they're coming from our home here at the Family Puppy to your new home, and there's a lot of excitement that comes with that. So sometimes they get nervous, or really they just have other things on their minds, like getting to smell all the new smells and meeting all the new people, walking around your new house. So we want you to limit their things that they're getting introduced to for the first couple of days. Keep it as simple as possible because their focus should be on making sure that they're eating well and trying to start that potty training process. So let's talk about food. When you first offer the food to the dog, it should always be offered in a dry form. So this is what it's going to look like. It's going to come to you in the mail, which is great. We're also going to send you home with enough to get you through until that mail order comes. But you're going to offer it dry. When you offer it dry to them, give them about 10 or 15 minutes to eat the food. And once they're finished eating, give them about 10 or 15 minutes to digest the food. And I advise doing this in their puppy poo palace crate. The reason for that is it'll keep them from having accidents, it'll force them to focus, and it'll make sure that they're getting that time to eat, relax, focus on eating their food. Now let's say you offer them their dry food and they don't eat it right away. Let's say they kind of back off, they're not interested, they're not showing any interest. And sometimes this happens even with bigger puppies. Say your large breeds, but not usually. Large breeds are usually fairly good eaters, and if they're not eating well, there may be another issue going on. So call us or call your vet, and we'll go ahead and help you with anything that might be happening there. Now with little dogs, it can be fairly common that in the first couple of days, they get nervous, they don't want to eat the dry food right away, and that's why we have a step process for you. So here's how that step process works. Dry food first. If they don't eat the dry food within 10 minutes, what you're going to do is step 2, which is to add hot tap water to their food. As you can see in this bowl, I put in enough water to cover all the food completely. I let it soak for about 4 to 5 minutes, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drain off all the excess water, so all that's left is just the kibble. So you can see here your water that comes out, it's going to be kind of cloudy, but you're going to set that aside, and we're just going to offer them this wet down food right here. So it's going to be a little bit more mushy, a little easier to chew. Also, because we're using hot tap water, it warms it up a little bit, and it's going to make them, it's going to entice them to eat because it's going to provide it a little bit more of a strong smell from the food, and it's going to get them to go right for that food. Now, you can offer this back to them. Again, give them about 10 minutes to eat. If they don't show any interest in that, we're going to move on to the next step. Hopefully, once you add a little bit of hot water, most puppies take right to it. Now keep in mind, this doesn't happen a lot, but with small dogs, it's very, very important that you make sure that they're eating every meal. It's just like a baby, and you're their new parents. So when you take a puppy home, it's your responsibility to make sure that those new babies are getting all the nutrition that they need. All of that nutrition is right here in this food, but you can't just put it down and guess that they're going to eat. You have to make sure that they eat, because they are just babies and sometimes they don't know what's best for them. So it's your job to make sure that that food gets into their system 3 times a day, at least, sometimes 4 times a day, depending on their size, and that'll be on your paperwork. What you want to be careful of is that we're looking out for things like hypoglycemia. Now, what that means is hypoglycemia is kind of like in humans when you have diabetes. And diabetes is dangerous because they can go into a diabetic shock. Same with a puppy. A puppy can go into a hypoglycemic shock. So we need to be careful that that doesn't happen. So you can be proactive by making sure that every meal you make sure that that puppy eats a fair amount of food, and that's a 1/4 cup, or for small breeds, your dogs that are under 3 pounds, it's 1/8 of a cup 4 times a day, okay? So your wet food's gonna look like this. Again, if you offer this to them and they don't eat right away, we're gonna go ahead and add some of the pouch food. So this pouch food, we're gonna send one home with you if your dog is under 3 pounds, but you can also pick them up at a grocery store. In your packet that's gonna be coming in the mail, you're gonna get some canned food by Life's Abundance. That food is gonna be great because it actually has like a gravy, it's more of a stew. Dogs love it, and if you don't need it for them to eat, you can actually use it as a treat. You can put it inside their Kong and then freeze it, and that'll give them something to chew on throughout the day. Hopefully you don't need it for food, and then you can use it as a treat. But it's there for your protection in case the puppy's not eating. So let's talk about the wet food real quick. What you're gonna do is you're gonna take the wet food, the food that you've watered down rather, and you're gonna mix in a little bit of the pouch food with that food. So as you can see, I have it here. And this is going to show a mixture of both the wet food, which is from this pouch, comes out looking like this, and you're going to mix that in with your watered down kibble. Stir it up real good so that it coats all pieces of the food, because otherwise they'll just go in and just eat the wet food. And our goal is to get them back to eating dry food, okay? So you can offer them this mixture, and if they don't eat that right away, then next I would go to offering just the pouch food by itself. So no kibble at all mixed in. If that doesn't work, then you have, hopefully your mail order has come in with the Life's Abundance canned food. You can offer that. If not, there's a couple of things you can actually pick up at your local grocery store that you can use to make sure that your puppy eats. They're both made by Gerber. One of them is these little chicken sticks, and for whatever reason, puppies love these, and they're super healthy. So because babies can eat them, so therefore so can puppies. So you're going to go ahead and drain out some of this juice here, and you can pull out these little hot dogs, and you can just give them just a piece at a time, and they break off real easy. They're super soft, and dogs love them. So again, this is not what you want the dog to be on long term. This is just to get their appetite going. So the goal of these is to kind of wet their whistle, if you will. You're going to get them to where they're getting their appetite back, they're getting their energy back up, and then you can get them back to dry kibble, because that's our goal, is to get them back on dry food, right? So if this doesn't work, if they won't eat these little Gerber chicken sticks, then a last resort from the grocery store you can pick up is actually Gerber baby chicken food. It's a chicken and gravy, and the reason that this is great, if I can get it open here, is that it is, of course, it's a consistency that's easy to work with. And if the dog doesn't eat it on its own, it's going to be easy to go ahead and give to the puppy. And I'll show you how real quick right here. The little Cavalier is going to be happy to be our assistant today. So again, these little guys here, these are little hot dogs, and if they turn their nose up at him, which he's not, he loves them, but if they don't like those, then you can try the baby food. Put it just in front of their mouth, and if they're not interested, well, which he is, but let's say he wasn't, you can just put it on your finger. This is really easy. You're going to set him down. Let me move this out of the way here. And just gently pinch in the corners of his mouth, open his mouth, and just rub this right on the roof of his mouth. Not going to put it back at the back of his throat. You're not going to put it on the front of his mouth. You're going to put it right on the roof of his mouth, so that when his tongue moves, the action is going to actually make him swallow it. So that's going to go down on his own. You don't want to force anything down their throat because it can be dangerous. They can choke, it can cause pneumonia. There's some dangerous things that can happen there. Again, hopefully none of this ever happens, but just in case, there are some simple steps to make sure that your dog is eating. And hopefully as he finds something that he likes to kind of get his appetite going back, you can get him back on dry kibble. And that's our ultimate goal. So there's one other thing I want to tell you about, and it's a little quirk that some puppies have. One of my dogs actually has it. Some puppies don't like to eat out of a bowl. It's something about the hollowness that when they stick their head in and it echoes, they don't like having to stick their head down in a bowl. It's a little bit, either it's too big or too deep, them hitting their whiskers, whatever it may be, getting their ears wet, I don't know. But sometimes puppies just don't like to eat out of a regular bowl. If you find that your puppy isn't eating out of a bowl, I have a couple of things that I would advise. Number one, you could either do a shallow bowl like this one, where it's just very narrow from top to bottom. It's not going to be super deep, so it's a little bit flatter. We also sometimes can recommend to people using just a flat plate. Just put it down on a plate, put it on the ground so that it's easy for them to walk up to and get. You're not going to tip it over as easy either. And for whatever reason, they do better on flat surfaces. You can also just put the food straight onto the floor. Sometimes that's where puppies eat best, is straight off of the floor, because they don't feel like there's anything in their way. They walk right up, they can pick it up and eat it, and they don't have as many problems. So keep that in mind if you find that your puppy has an aversion to a bowl. There's other options out there. Try a couple of things to get them comfortable. Again, keep in mind it is your responsibility to take care of that little baby we've entrusted to you. Do your best to make sure they're eating at least 3 times a day if they're under 5 pounds, and if they're under 3 pounds, then they should be eating 4 times a day. If you ever have problems where the puppy is showing some signs of being lethargic, or let's say that they aren't as active as they normally are, there's a couple of things that I want to show you. Again, we're going to use our little Cavalier buddy here as an example. Hello, are you happy? Yes. See that wagging tail? That's what you want to look for. You're going to look for your puppy to be responsive. When you make noises, they should respond, just as he is with his tail right here. Now, if you find that your puppy's not doing that, or let's say you put them down on the ground and they aren't moving like they normally are, or they're just not acting themselves, I want to show you a quick way that you can check to see how their sugar levels are. So, if you feel like your puppy's acting a little abnormal and he hasn't eaten real well, go ahead and lift up his little lip on the side, and you can see their gums are bright pink. That's what they should be. If you open your puppy's mouth like this and you find that their gums right here in between the top of the mouth and their teeth, if that area is showing that it's gray or white or looks kind of colorless, that's a bad thing. That means that their sugar level is low, and you need to get some food in them as quickly as possible. But if you can't get them to eat right away, or if you find that their sugar level is low by checking their gums, and you can also check by pressing a little bit, and when you release your finger, it should snap right back to that bright pink color. So if you're seeing that the gums are gray or white, or the color's not popping right back, there's something that you can look for in your cupboard that can help get some sugar into their system quickly. And that's Caro syrup. So keep some of this on hand if you have a dog under 3 pounds that you got from us, because that baby may need something like this sometimes. Hopefully not, but just in case, you can have this on hand. It's a cheap way that you can pick up at the grocery store and have an emergency backup in case something happens. Now with this Caro syrup, the quickest way to get it into their system is just put a little bit on your finger, lift up their little lip, and just rub it on their gums. That'll get right into their system, into their bloodstream. Usually they like the taste of it. But you can give them, just a small amount, not more than a teaspoon. And again, just rub it on their gums, rub it on the roof of their mouth, and that'll get sugar into their system quickly. And then from there, then you would go ahead and get food into their system. Again, Caro syrup is not a sustenance. It's just a way to boost their sugar level to get them back to where their appetite's going to come back. Hopefully this never happens, but just in case, we're here to help. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to call.